Our relations appeared tense this week after the U.S. issued a warning that there could be a terrorist attack in Sandton. This is over this past weekend. President Cyril Ramaphosa expressing dismay that the alert was issued without consultation with the government. The country also issued a warning for Nigeria. Let's take a look at how then this is likely to impact relations between the two countries going forward. We're joined by international relations consultant Dr. Charles Sinkala and the Institute for Security Studies Willem Els. Good evening to both of you. Thanks for your time, Willem. The weekend has come and gone. Touch wood. There are only a couple of hours remaining of Sunday, but by and large, the events that were identified in as far as being likely targets, those have gone off smoothly. I suppose it's a moment for us to reflect then on the context of the warning and what we've seen unfold this weekend.
That is correct. Good evening to you. Yeah, unfortunately, as you said, the weekend is almost gone, and there was no serious incidents that have been reported. So we are very happy that happened. We also need to understand that the fact that it did not happen did not mean that there was not a threat. Several things could have worked in and prevented it, but that is a discussion that we can do later.
Mm-hmm. Charles, let me bring you in here. There have been calls, I think, from various groups, political parties and commentators for the U.S. government to be a lot more transparent, particularly when it comes to the information that is informing the nature of its warnings. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Of course, yes, there is a protocol in terms of countries' relations, in terms of communicating, especially on matters concerning security. And I'm sure the United States of America should have followed that protocol, not to publicize in the public media to alert the South African government, but they should have engaged the International Relations Ministry and Department, to alert them so that they can be aware. Rather than the Department of International Relations and Corporate Governance, to hear about it from the media. Mm-hmm. But in any case, one has to understand that sometimes security matters has no time to wait. And hence, the U.S. had come from that angle. But it is very important that South Africa has to take time to think about how U.S. has portrayed itself in this matter and deal with it to protect the citizens of South Africa, rather than questioning on what process has United States of America taken.
Willem, the challenge that this poses going into the future is that, of course, the next time that the U.S. issues an alert or warning of that nature, it may come under even greater scrutiny than perhaps it should, simply because of the issues around credibility and the sense that, all cards have not been put on the table.
That is right. And I think we must just step back to what Dr. Sinkala just said. He mentioned that there are certain protocols that need to be followed. And if we just step back to that and reflect from there to the future and future warnings or situations like this, we heard that the minister as well as the president indicated that they have not been informed, and that is plausible. We understand that might have been the case, but part of those protocols that Dr. Sinkala spoke about is that there is a very lively and interactive relationship between your security services and intelligence services on operational level. And we believe that the Americans would have followed that. We also believe that there was some vigorous sort of interaction between them and the South African security services and intelligence, but also amongst the other intelligence services that are here, because the standard protocol is that once you receive such information, you start with a verification process. And that verification process includes sharing that information with your counterparts in which case South Africa intelligence service is a counterpart in this matter, because the Americans have got the safety of their citizens here in South Africa at heart, as does the South African intelligence services, the South African service people safety as heart. So we believe that there should have been, or there must have been, some vigorous interaction there. What we suspect happened, maybe that is plausible, that down the line up the reporting towards the president, there might have been some breakdowns, and that also could have been a cause for them not informing. We just understand the Americans must have taken this one very seriously in order to go ahead with the warning, and they also understand the repercussions on a political level if they do not follow these protocols. So that I think there are some more behind the scenes that we do not know about.
Dr. Sinkala, ultimately when it comes to the public debate, it's a question of who then do we give the benefit of the doubt? Why must we give the Americans the benefit of the doubt over the South African government?
Well, like what my colleague has said, we do not know what has transpired, and we do not know how that threat has come, but for the sake of safeguarding the South Africans in Sandton or any other areas that might have come in threat with this terror attack, is to first deal with that. Processes and other issues can be dealt at a later stage. But in any case, United States of America has been in many countries. It is hard to say that what I'm going to say now, that the United States of America has been involved in a lot of terror attacks within their country and outside, where they've been identified as the key role players in those wars. And, we cannot mention or forget to mention Ukraine. We cannot forget to mention Iran. We cannot forget to mention Iraq, and we cannot forget to mention many other countries where United States has been found to be involved into those arrangements. But in any case, what we can only say from the South African point of view is how can we safeguard the citizens? How can United States of America follow the protocol in terms of engaging government? With terror, it's quite unfortunate that United States of America can announce something publicly. There is a security protocol and matters that has to be dealt with before they can get announced, so that it gives a chance to the security cluster in South Africa and any other part of the country that might be on threat.
Willem, let's talk about the broader issue that has been raised here, which is the fact that there are serious questions of security that the South African government has to attend to, and that includes even the infiltration of cells, we're told, that are operating or have bases in some parts of the country, because I think even beyond the alert, that could pose future challenges for this country.
You are so right. South Africa has a challenge where it has been branded in the past as a friendly country for these radicalized groups to operate in, and to also even do their funding and gather funding for their operations elsewhere. The Henry Oka case, Henry Oka, the leader of the MENT organization in Nigeria, is currently serving time here in South Africa for attacks perpetrated in Nigeria that have been planned here. So yes, we do have a history, and there are challenges, but we also should understand this in the light of what happened last year in July, where our intelligence services were really not up to the task given to them when they failed to forewarn government and the public about the uprising and what followed. So there is a lot of break of trust that happened between the public and government, and also the intelligence services. So from that background, we understand that they've got a lot to prove, they've got a lot to improve on their operations, etc., etc. So, it will take much more for the public to believe a minister to say you are safe and we've got it covered if they don't really have a very good track record. That on the one hand. We also know on the other hand that vast improvements has happened. They have really upped their game and they have put some things in place in order to better their capacity. But at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding, and we will have to see how they perform and also how they redeem themselves in future should there be further incidents like of this kind.
So, Dr. Sinkala, then let's talk about what makes South Africa particularly vulnerable, because I think what Willem is saying there about just how broken down our intelligence and security clusters have been, that's information that's out there for anybody to consume.
Yes, indeed. I can echo that further, that, South Africa's security hasn't been 100%. And it's quite embarrassing that United States of America can point out a security threat within the country before the country itself, as South Africa, with the combined security forces and the cluster, who advises security matters in the country, realizing that there's actually a threat. The uprising that we had, which, lost a lot of lives in South Africa, subsequently to Zuma incarceration and all those type of things, should have been a wake-up call for South Africa to make sure that departments speak to each other in terms of threats and other activities. Again, we have been exposed now in such a matter that United States of America, miles and miles away from Africa, can identify a threat in Sandton, in the hub of the economical zone that we have. But in any case, we've got faith in the system in South Africa. People shouldn't lose hope. These are issues that are bureaucratically engineered, that can be mitigated. It could be a threat that can be taken seriously, and it could be a threat that can be maybe be passed by certain motives. But in any case, we hope that the South African government, especially the security cluster, takes ownership of the security matters in the country. And I'm sure that the head of state, President Cyril Ramaphosa, should also be in a position to be informed on time that these issues are escalating, and let's learn from the loopholes that are happening in the country.
International Relations Consultant Dr. Charles Sinkala and Institute for Security Studies Willem Els. Let me thank you both for your time tonight.